Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Paul, and on this show I like to go over things that I am curious about and things that I've looked into I like to share. So with today's video, I kind of see it as part three or day three of a continued conversation. 2 days ago, I talked about how NFTs, in my opinion, will change the game. Yesterday, I talked about the size of the internet and how I think we are underestimating it and what some of those implications would be. And today, I wanted to talk about the possibilities of a difference in investing that we're going to be seeing in the future, and where I'm going to go with this is particularly investing based off people's psychology, not in necessarily anything real. And you'll see why I put real in quotes, because it could be perceived any which way. So before we go forward, let's go back and understand like a little bit about why humans trade in the first place and what we find valuable in the first place. So if we go back to early times, we're going to have a simple bartering system. So I'm going to trade you some chicken for a sheep, or some seeds for some cloth, or wood for whatever, right? It's all very, very practical stuff to build and eat. That's pretty much the basis of it. When a population grows, we're going to need a more common standard of trade. So this is where some precious metals get involved. Okay, if we're all going to be trading gold, a sheep is worth this much in gold, a chicken is worth this much in gold, a house is worth this much in gold, and then that's kind of where we go from there in terms of the gold and the population, or whatever precious metals that they want to use, silver, bronze, etc. When a population continued to grow, or at least this is what history would say, well, it turns out carrying around a big sack of gold is not necessarily the most practical thing, especially when we're talking about higher and higher numbers. That's not necessarily something that people just want to do. And so what they could do is trade paper, a note that was representative of something in the bank, that someone at any point, if they went to go pull from, they could pull that amount of gold, whatever was worth on the paper. This is the idea of a gold backed currency, which is kind of where we were in the 20th century with some stuff before we got pulled off of it. We all have our different paper currencies, and it was originally backed by gold. This is what made the paper worth anything. Now we are currently in an era, and what you could call this monopoly money. We're just throwing around our paper. It has believed value that if I give you $1, that dollar is actually worth something. Well, in actuality, right now, the dollar, or whatever currency you want to use, is not actually worth anything besides the little piece of paper that it is. It's not actually worth anything. So it's subjective. Okay. So we are currently in a subjective reality right now of value based off the currency that we do use. Okay. There is nothing besides agreed trust behind our currencies that make it have value. There's nothing else behind it besides agreed trust that this is what we'll use for wealth, a measure of wealth. So now getting into different approaches with investing. If we go the typical route with investing, we're going to say, okay, we're going to invest in companies. These are real, tangible entities that are doing real, tangible things in the world that produce good results, okay? Therefore, if we invest in X company and it continues to grow over 10, 20 years, our wealth grows with it. It's a real, tangible thing. People like investing in homes. Why? Because it's a real, tangible thing. A farm, it's a real, tangible thing. So that is a philosophy of investing, to invest in these physical things that produce something else. What we are going to get into, and where some people already are, is in some classes called alternative investing. And some of these would be things such as like sports cards. So why on earth does a sports card have any value besides the fact that people maybe want it? And so if two people want it, one's willing to pay something for it, whereas maybe another person's not. But obviously blow this up and the numbers get really big. Maybe like 10,000 people want a card. And so the highest bidder can pay to get it. So therefore these things have value based off people's desires, the demand for XYZ product, even though it's not necessarily something that's producing something real and tangible. It's just a holder, if you will. It's just a thing to hold on to. So that's where we're going with the art and, kind of those classes there. So when I was thinking about NFTs, and then I started thinking about the size of the internet, I was going, okay, if we are currently in an era that we don't mind using currency that has no real value to buy things that either supposedly have value or don't, we have been not educated on what has real value. So as the internet continues to grow and continues to expand, it's my thought that we are only going to continue to go into investing in things that have believed value, but not necessarily real. And I'll tell you why I think this in a second. And I'll tell you why I also think it's practical and why I don't think it's outlandish to say this. This is mainly due to the size of the global economy, and with where we're at right now in forming different tribes online. I do think people will start. So let's think about this before I finish that sentence. Let's think about this with any of the cryptocurrencies that people have heard or people talk about. One of the main reasons why they're not widely accepted is because people simply just don't really understand that much. Like, okay, how does something online I can never hold, touch, anything like that, how does it have any value? Okay, good question. Well, simply put, there is demand for these things, and there's agreed upon ledger, if you will, of what has happened with these things. And because there's a limited supply and there's a demand, there is supposed value, even though these things aren't tangible, nothing like that. Yet, people are putting so much money, again, what I'm calling money is already just a paper thing that has no value behind it. It's just something that we've all been agreed upon that we're going to use this thing. With the conversation that I was having yesterday with the internet and where things are going, I think this is one thing that we're going to have to understand about psychology. With the kids growing up with the internet now, and all they know is the internet, you have to understand the crypto stuff to them will be what a dollar bill without gold behind it is to us. I think that's huge. Because now, because our generation and the little bit of the generation before me has been not trained on what makes the dollar worth anything or any other currency worth anything. We're just trading around paper that has no value. Well, what's the difference between paper that has no value or real value, but we just agree upon it, and crypto? What's the difference there? Okay, you can't touch it. Okay, great. You can't trade in your dollar for anything. What can you trade in your dollar for? People are like, oh, well, a dollar is an end within itself. No, it's not. Originally, it wasn't supposed to be. And so understanding if we as a society, as a world, agree to use dollars that have nothing, no value, to do huge transactions, change lives, crazy ways, you realize the kids growing up with this and the internet's not going away. This will be what our current system is for us. Therefore, since we are going into an age of subjectivity where things are just going to be valuable because people believe it to be, I think investing is going to change dramatically. It's no longer going to just be what physical things are there that produce goods and produce real things in the world. It's going to be what is perceived as valuable to an individual community. Because now we're not just dealing with a market size of 10 million, 200 million, 500 million, a billion. We're going to deal with a market size of 8 billion people, of 10 billion people. Who knows how big it's going to get? And thinking about how many different tribes can be in there, you're no longer just going to be looking at what are the physical goods, what are the companies that I can invest in. How it's going to change is you're going to say, what is on the rise within large enough communities that they perceive as valuable? because we are moving completely. We're not bartering anymore. We're not trading gold anymore. We're not doing any of that stuff. We are literally in the age of monopoly money and digital currency. And I don't think we're thinking enough about this, and to say, okay, if we're not going to do anything real anymore, I might as well start investing off of people's psychology. It doesn't even have to be a real thing. It doesn't even have to produce a real thing. If enough people in a market believe a thing to be valuable, it is stable in its own right. It is stable within its own right. And again, I could be so far off and so wrong in this. I'm willing to acknowledge that. But with where we're already currently at, and with enough smart people to not even realize how our current economic system works with the money that we have, why would that change? Or why wouldn't it be different in 50 years, 70 years, 100 years, when all these kids have grown up with is currency, like digital currency and the internet reality being more of a reality than the physical reality, and the internet culture being more of a reality than what neighborhood someone lives in. I think this changes investing philosophy completely, and I think it changes how we approach wealth and money completely. So those are a little bit of my thoughts in just under 12 minutes here. Let me know if you think this is absolutely ludicrous, or if you think what I'm saying has some validity to it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next one.